In his speech to the Republican convention, Mr. Nixon spoke of Tanya, a Russian child whose family died in the siege of Leningrad. He quoted the final line in her diary, "All are dead. Only Tanya is left." Let us think of Tanya, said Mr. Nixon, and all the other Tanyas everywhere, as we proudly meet our responsibility for leadership. Since Mr. Nixon became president, 165,000 South Vietnamese civilians, men, women, and children, our allies, people we are fighting to save, have been killed by American bombs. In a recent month, a quarter of the wounded civilians in South Vietnam were children under 12. As we vote November 7th, let us think of Tanya and all the other defenseless children of this world.
It was almost dawn in Miami when the final moment came. But the lateness of the hour did not dim the emotion in that hall. For the victory they celebrated was not his alone.
My nomination is all the more precious in that it is the gift of the most open political process in all of our political history.
The reforms had worked. For in Miami that night were people from the entire length and breadth of their party. Some were professionals, many were amateurs, but they all were Democrats, and they all shared the belief that this year, each of them would make a difference.
I'm a housewife and a mother and a dairy farmer. I have one son, 17, and he was very anxious to do the driving. And so he offered to take me down, but he also told me if I didn't vote correctly, I'd walk home, and his vote was for McGovern.
I've been in politics since 1960, and I think that's a difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party to begin with. I think the Democratic Party is the party of the people, the ones who care.
There were only 3 from the delegation that had never been to a convention before. We were all new, and we didn't have a moment's free time. You know, the first night went 10 hours.
People feel as if there's no way they can influence what happens. And I always felt that way. And in fact, that's the really great thing about I went to the National Democratic Convention, you know. A lot of people said, oh, you lost prime time by being up all night. Well, that to me was great. And every delegate that was there stayed there and stayed with it.
The state senators and the members of the House of Delegates and all of these new people really worked hard.
The everyday person in our section, they were making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and salami sandwiches right there on the convention floor because they didn't have the money to eat in the hotels and restaurants. It wasn't a convention to play. The Miami people, the hotel people, and the restaurant people were very unhappy because we didn't play.
We worked hard on the floor, and we had freedom of the floor to work in the way that we wanted to work.
Lots of people are able to participate, and because they're participating, then the politicians, or he in this case, will have to listen to what the people say. He's going to respond to the people.
People were voting on their own conscience. I saw that myself. I saw democracy happening right there on the floor.
We all knew together this was great. We worked as a team.
It was just fantastic. It was the first time I've ever seen anything that's supposed to not work.
This is the people's nomination, and next January, we will restore the government to the people of this country. Let the opposition collect their $10 million in secret money from the privileged few, and let us find 1 million ordinary Americans who will contribute $25 each to this campaign, a 1 million member club with members who will not expect special favors for themselves, but a better land for us all.
The contributions of 200,000 ordinary Americans had made him their nominee. He would need 1 million more to make him their president. The people are paying for this campaign with their hard-earned dollars. Send what you can to McGovern for President, Washington, D.C. McGovern, Democrat, for the people.
My nephew was killed over in Vietnam about 2 years ago. We're going to go to Russia now and help develop their country. And the Chinese, they want Nixon to stay in power here yet. Why?
Personally, I think it was a good thing the president went to Peking. Right. I think it's a good thing we're trying to improve our relations with Russia. But why do we say that 15 million people in North Vietnam are a greater threat to the United States because they're communists than 800 million people in China or 300 million in Russia? This is the thing that doesn't make sense.
I voted for Nixon in '68. I never voted for Republican before until he come along and says he's going to stop this war, which he didn't.
Well, do you know who you're going to vote for this year?
George
McGovern, Democrat, for the people. The people are paying for this campaign with their hard-earned dollars. Send what you can to McGovern for President, Washington, D.C.
He's continuing the bombing, not to get our men out of prison, but to keep General Tu in power. And that's a price I'm not willing to pay. Let me just add one thing. One of the great problems that we've had in the leadership of this country is that we have had too many people that were unwilling to change their mind when they got new evidence. They were afraid they'd lose face, and so they wouldn't change. Now, I think we need a president who isn't afraid to say, I'm going to change my mind. I made a mistake. And sometimes you ought to be able to say to the people, this is not going to be popular, but this is what we're going to have to do to save our country. You have to make those hard decisions.
McGovern, Democrat, for the people.
And whenever the war is over, then there'll be more layoffs and this type of stuff.
If we have to depend on war, we're in sad shape in this country. You know, that's really the argument that the communists make. They say our society won't work unless we have a war going on. Now, frankly, I don't believe that. At the end of World War II, which is the war I participated in, we had full employment after that war. And the reason is that we set about doing the things we needed to do that we couldn't do with the war on. Now, those problems are still here. We need new housing, new environmental protection programs, and if we stop the waste that's going on in this war, we can provide a job for every man and woman who wants to work. And I'm pledged to that.
McGovern, Democrat, for the people.
They're paying people on welfare today for doing nothing. They're laughing at our society. Because we're all hard-working people, and we're getting laughed at for working every day. Why not have them go to work and clean up the dirty streets in our town?
Well, I agree. Richard Nixon goes around talking as though I'm some kind of a radical because I believe in guaranteed jobs for people that he's throwing out of work. He said he was going to cut the welfare rolls. He put 4 million people on welfare. That's not my idea of delivering on a campaign pledge. Now, I'm telling you, and I mean it, we're going to do whatever is necessary to provide a job for every able-bodied man and woman in this country who wants to work, and those who don't want to work shouldn't be paid anything in the way of public support.
McGovern, Democrat, for the people.
But I think it's a problem every citizen in this country is going to have to address himself to.
Mr. Nixon's big program when he was running for president was, I want Agnew because I'm going to get rid of this corruption in the streets, the rioting, the drugs, and I haven't seen anything except a smart answer.
If you want to end crime in this country, it's going to take more than speeches. You're never going to get on top of crime in the United States until you get on top of drugs. Because half of all the crime in this country is caused by the drug addict. They'll kill, they'll steal, they'll do anything to get that money to sustain that drug habit. And we've got to have a program that's better than the one we have now to deal with drugs if we're going to get on top of the crime problem.
McGovern, Democrat for the people.
This is about the government. This is about credibility. This is about electronics. This is about bugging. This is about spying. This is about thievery. This is about espionage. This is about lying. This is about payoffs. This is about contradiction. This is about special deals. This is about falsification. This is about testimony. This is about wheat deals. This is about hiding. This is about dishonesty. This is about sabotage. This is about secrecy. This is about stealing. This is about hidden funds. This is about deception. This is about the White House. And this is how you stop it. With your vote.
Well, either way, it won't be a disaster. What am I looking for? I mean, slow vote for Nixon. Why rock the boat? I'm not crazy about it. Never was. I gotta decide, though. I gotta make up my... I don't know about McGovern. You don't have that much time. I can't keep people waiting. The fellas are voting Nixon. They expect me to vote for him, too. Me vote for Nixon. My father'd roll over in his grave. The fellas say they are. Maybe they're not. Crime? I don't feel safer. ICE is up. Got a feeling. Don't vote for Nixon. Why am I confused? Who am I measuring McGovern against? Gut feeling. My gut feeling. McGovern. His hand voted for Kennedy. I mean, it's just possible. McGovern's straight. Maybe he can. That's the way.